Hey guys, I'm Ryan Turek, the managing editor of ShockTillYouDrop.com, and welcome to another edition of Choice Cuts. I'm standing outside the offices of Shout Factory, which houses Scream Factory, the company that is resurrecting some of our favorite horror titles for DVD and Blu-ray. Let's head inside to see how they work.
Jeff Nelson, Senior Marketing Director.
Okay.
I'm Cliff MacMillan, Production and Acquisition.
Excellent. For the longest time, Shout Factory was something that was on my radar, having worked for the web for a very long time. They've always been very genre savvy, I should say. At what point was the decision made to kind of fracture, and not necessarily fracture the company, but launch a brand, the Scream Factory brand, to basically serve as a haven for all the great stuff you guys are doing?
Well, you know, we had an existing brand, Roger Corman's Cult Classic. You can see some of the pictures right here, and we had a lot of titles in there that covered a lot of genres. And Cliff brought in that deal. When that deal ended and we no longer had titles in there, we were sort of very hungry for another brand that would sort of replace it, but like maybe even do it one step better. We got a lot of learnings from the Corman brand of what worked and what quite didn't.
Do you guys have kind of like a mandate, like this title is great, but this title isn't? Or is it just simply about availability?
I think a lot of it comes down to availability. I mean, there's certain titles like The Fog or, you know, that should be a collector's edition. Right. But a lot of times it really strictly comes down to, is there anybody left to talk to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we kind of like, I've always said this, Cliff and I are big fans of the films, and so we get a really good gauge just from us living and breathing these titles for years prior to ever working here, whether a specific title has a really fervent, very agitated and excited fan base, which then goes into deciding whether or not it becomes a collector's edition or not. Right. But then, you know, we love a lot of the films that are very obscure and, you know, that we go to put out and we hope do well. Like we have our fingers crossed on Deadly Eyes. It's a rodent rat movie from the 80s that we both really love, and we and Cliff fought to get, and, you know, we go after those too because we want to bring those to the fold as well. And, you know, of course it all boils down to sales, but, you know, I mean.
Yeah, well, I was curious. I mean, one of the titles that's coming out within your Summer of Fear this year is Lake Placid. Is that one of the special editions?
That is a collector's edition.
Okay, because I was going to say, if it wasn't, what was the reason behind it? But I guess you had already answered my question in terms of it's just simply about talent availability.
Yeah, and for that film, I mean, there were some people that didn't want to talk. I mean, Bridget Fonda has completely left, you know, her film career. She's a, you know, a mom, so she didn't want to talk. I think Oliver Platt was busy. You know, we got Bill Pullman, but it was a little difficult on that title, and you wouldn't think it would be.
Right.
Yeah, and that got turned into a collector's edition, I think, kind of rather easily because it spawned like 3 direct-to-video sequels, and it also spawned a lot of that kind of giant creature movie stuff that you see so evident on the Sci-Fi Channel and things like that now.
Every Saturday.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, it feels like, you know, I just rewatched it recently, and I was like, oh God, this is sort of standard now. But in the 1999, I think when it came out, there wasn't a whole lot of movies like that.
Well, it was one of those. It was one of those nature run amok movies that came out in the wake of the Scream phase.
Exactly.
So it had a little bit of tongue-in-cheek humor to it. It was a little bit funny, you know. So have you guys ever run into any interference? And you don't have to name names, but have you ever run into interference with a studio that's like, okay, you can have this title, but you can't give it the love that you want to?
Oh.
Really?
We just, well, I mean, we get titles that we go after, and then they come back and they say, we can't do extras on them.
That's really weird. You know, is it politics, or is it just because, you know, they don't care?
I think it all comes down to, is the deal worth their while sometimes? Yeah. You know, because you have to think about all of the legal people that need to clear music, clear talent, likeness, you know. There's so many things behind the scenes that most fans don't know that really cause issues with things, or why, you know, Psycho 2 and 3 didn't have a original cover. There's always, you know, something in the background that makes some titles a lot more difficult to do And sometimes if you can't do extras, like if we feel we can't do extras, sometimes it's just not worth us putting it out.
The other challenge he faces definitely, and this comes less from the studios that we license from, but from the independents, is in the shape of the masters.
Oh, yeah.
My God, I mean, the hoops that you had to jump through for our upcoming Final Terror. I mean, doing the best that we can, making it look as best as we can, but there was a lot of problems, and we've also learned as going forward when it comes to announcing those sort of independent titles is like, let's get the masters first, let's take a look at them, let's sort of do everything before we do that, because then we get caught with our pants down like, oh, we got to move Hellhole out, or oh, this one isn't, So we make it look easy sometimes, but I'm telling you, it is very much a lot of hard work, a lot of hurdles to jump over.
Looking at the older titles versus the new titles, you could break it down for me. What was the most challenging older title that you guys had to handle in terms of what you looked at the master and you were like, oh man, we really need to clean this up? Or
that would be any of the Roger Corman titles.
I
mean, a lot of the material had been, lost for years, and so that was probably the most challenging. Final Terror was tough too. I mean, all of the original film elements are gone. Nobody knows where they are. So we had to...
I'll throw in Sleepaway Camp.
Sleepaway Camp,
which looks fantastic now, but I mean, again, lots of getting the film itself and then having, I mean, just it can be very brutal.
Well, it's interesting. I was going to say we're living in a really great time now where the technology is at our fingertips to clean these things up and to give these older films a second life or third life.
The other thing that people don't realize is, it's expensive to do this work.
Absolutely,
And when you don't own the movie, you don't have all the avenues of revenue to get from the film. So if we sublicense a movie for 5 years and we only get physical media, that's the only place where we're recouping our money that we invest into cleaning it up, restoring it, extras and so forth. Whereas the studios have digital, they have theatrical re-release. So we can only spend so much that we're going to recoup if we sell X amount of units.
Right, and we're trying to be responsible enough in that department fiscally and everything like that so that the brand can go on for a long time. We know we want it to, we love these films, but we have to make that responsible decision, sometimes hard decisions, so we can extend it.
Exactly.
We don't want it to be another Panic House or a No Shame or all those labels who are not with us anymore.
Have you guys thought about, it was interesting because Criterion had announced a bunch of titles the week that we're shooting this, but it was titles that were iTunes exclusive or VOD exclusive. Do you guys ever think about maybe taking these transfers and maybe offering them digitally only for a little while or anything like that? Because you're seeing a lot of that market shifting.
Well, the major studios don't give us digital rights because they want to keep all that for themselves, so it would only be an independent title that we can pick up those rights. So it makes it a little harder for us, whereas it isn't for the studios.
I was just curious just because you guys are doing the work to get that cleaning up done and stuff like that.
Some of the independents, they might be able to do that, but our digital team and broadcast team looks at some of the titles that we do have those kind of rights for, like Night of the Demons or Sleepaway Camp or something like that, and they kind of farm out stuff like that. But I noticed that from Criterion.
What's been your riskiest title to date, where you guys just kind of went, well, we really love this, and we got we've got all the people together, we could clean it up really great, but we're not sure, or already the numbers and all the demographics and already all that other stuff accounted for before you even jump into that?
Yes, we do. We do the homework before. I will say that there's definitely some projects right now that we're currently working on that we haven't announced that are very risky. There's a lot of players involved. There's a lot of stuff that you're just kind of like, oh boy, is this all going to come together? There are some that are, I wouldn't call easy because they could be hard in other type of areas, like the artwork was over, but something like The Fog is a no-brainer, or They Live is a no-brainer. Those are ones that we know that we're probably going to hit this, and then when it overperforms, it's like, that's great. But
I think you take a risk, and sometimes you do Ninja 3, and you hope that there's enough of a fan base out there for it, and sometimes you find out, not that one per se, but you find out there isn't that big audience for it. So
Would you say that the Town That Dreaded Sundown was your most popular, most surprising title, or was there something else that you didn't anticipate to have that much success?
Well, I would say that Town That Dreaded Sundown did really well, and I think overperformed. I mean, it hadn't been on DVD before or Blu-ray, so it did okay. I would say that From Beyond also did very well. Again, it's a popular title, but it's not nearly on a stature of, like, say, The Howling or The Fog or something, but it did.
But it's weird, and it's not a Scream title, but Rolling Thunder, it was a title that had never been out on DVD or Blu-ray before either, and it didn't do as well as Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Yeah.
And it's just like head-scratcher. You just never know what's going to sometimes perform and what's not going to.
Yeah.
That you expect is going to perform.
There's one, the titles that we now have in our collector's edition series, the one that gets the O card and the newly designed art, I would say when we put our stamp on those and what we're seeing, we just saw this with Cat People, Night of the Demons, those got those releases. Those are doing well when we put the collector's stamp on it and stuff. But, it's shaky. I mean, we make some experimental choices. We put out The Beast Within and Crawl Space in December on Blu-ray. So far, a little lukewarm, you know what I mean? But we tried a TV Terrors thing on DVD where we tried to look in old 70s TV movies. It's just, it didn't work, We learned some things along the way, some hard lessons, but,
Yeah. But that stuff is out there for those who do,
At least we tried, you know what I mean? And we will continue to look at things and go, well, even if it didn't work like this here, maybe this title will perform like this. So we're open. But.
Well, let's look ahead at the Summer of Fear. We discussed Lake Placid, a couple favorites of mine that are on the list. Phantom of the Paradise, which is represented on your chest. Ginger Snaps, which I absolutely adore. Legend of Hell House, Dog Soldiers, Without Warning, Motel Hell, Final Terror, Deadly Eyes, which you mentioned, and Ravenous.
Yep.
Finally. For you guys, it's a big summer. What are you guys most excited about?
For a release standpoint, I'm a huge Motel Hell fan, so very big on that. But I have to say, Without Warning, which has never even been out on VHS, I mean, this is a big deal in that world. It's like, I mean, it's a fun 80s alien movie. It was basically the basis for Predator. It is basically Predator. And for some reason, it just never even came out on VHS. And it's remembered from its poster and all this kind of stuff to bootlegged a lot. So I think that's really good.
Yeah. And you, Cliff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Ravenous, so I'm really happy that it's finally coming out on Blu-ray. So but I think we're gonna have a big fall too.
That's right. I mean, we can talk about the Summer of Fear, but we have started in September through November. We got some heavyweights. We already have Nightbreed, as you know, but there are just some other stuff that are there that we haven't even announced that are really good.
Well,
we do have one. we have two announces that we can bring to the table here that are part of our fall, they have been highly requested. In fact, a lot of people thought we were going to announce them a couple of weeks ago when we announced another title of ours. But Pumpkinhead.
Perfect.
Classic title will be coming as a collector's edition, first time on Blu-ray. We already have the art designed on it, so we're rocked and rolled there. And we'll also be putting out Pumpkinhead 2, Blood Wings, on Blu-ray for the first time as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. And apropos for the fall, Pumpkinhead.
Yes, it was kind of like, it can only be released in September and October. It's Halloween based, and we got to get it out there.
That's
so
great.
We saw lots of requests for it. Fans of it. I mean, and
we were already fans, so we had already asked MGM for it for a while.
Yeah, and it lends itself to Blu-ray. I mean, it's all visual and the monster and everything like that there too. So that is coming.
Awesome. And you got your Cracker Jack bonus features team on it, obviously.
Yeah, there was a lot of extras on the original DVD release, but we'll be bringing some new stuff to it as well.
That's awesome. And then another title that you guys have, is Lord of Illusions still on your...
Lord of Illusions is on the slate. Yeah. We did announce it. It kind of got leaked out a little bit early, but who cares? Who cares? Exactly. The person who leaked it was Clive Barker. So we're like, Bob was like, hey, you know what? There's nothing wrong there. That is coming in the fall, and it's going to come around the same time as Nightbreed. It obviously makes sense to time the two together, but We haven't started production on that yet, but I know that Clive's very excited about it. The artwork is done. We haven't unleashed that yet, but Clive signed off on that, and we're good to go there.
Very excited.
Yeah, he's very excited about that.
And our Nightbreed artwork too.
Yep, that's in progress right now. When Clive Barker himself, who's an artist too, signs off on your artwork, that's the highest compliment you can get.
It is.
I mean, it's pretty great.
Well, that's very cool. Well, you guys have a great year ahead. You know, I wish you both the success and stay independent, obviously, because I think that's fantastic. And as always, where should we be directing fans for all like Scream Factory announcements? This is your chance to plug.
Oh, well, it's easy. There, our Scream Factory Facebook page, which I monitor and I'm on every day and everything like that. That's where we're always going to put our announces and our new extras, new artwork, everything like that first. But we do have a Twitter account. It's Scream, I think, _Factory or at Scream _Factory. That's another place where you'll get the same kind of stuff over there. We're trying to build that channel as well, but it's definitely the Facebook page for sure.
Fantastic. And you also have Instagram. That's the Shout Factory Instagram.
Instagram is Shout Factory, but we have a lot of Scream Factory fans that post their stuff on there. It's fantastic. It's great. We also have a Tumblr page and a Pinterest page that are Shout Factory as well. So Shout Factory has the social media stuff going down, but we're trying to build, you know, the thing is, if we can build the Twitter and Facebook channels more, it just helps, again, with sales, awareness, word of mouth, all that kind of stuff. So we're always looking to increase those.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to talk
to you.
Shock Till You Drop.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.